Here's a Curry way downtown. Oh, what a shot!
For the first time in more years than I even care about counting, the Eastern Conference has finally produced more 50-win teams in the West. Of course, that's not really fooling anybody because most of everyone knows better by now than to count on Toronto for anything significant, and Boston got busted up before making it to the finish line, so it's really not what it looks like. With that being said, the East is clearly improved as Cleveland's powerhouse has taken a step back and teams like the Sixers have rose to prominence, giving us hope that the East is going to be legit for years to come if it should exist past this season. However, for the moment, we're discussing the 2018 playoffs, and I think you might be thoroughly surprised with some of the things I have to say here. Our first series is going to feature the first seeded Toronto Raptors and 8th-seeded Washington Wizards. Really strange season for them in light of John Wall going out and them taking cryptic shots about the ball moving without him. Ton of fun stuff over there. Anyways, they clocked in as an 8th seed in the Eastern Conference, which doesn't say a whole lot about their chances for a deep run, but you never know when you're playing the Raptors. In all seriousness, Toronto has gotten better than previous years. For the most part this season, they were playing a different brand of basketball and their second unit was producing. So for a while, there were rumblings that they were finally ready to come out of the East. We'll get to that subject later. So for now, I will say that from what I've seen in watching more Raptors games than I've ever bothered to watch in previous years, they should definitely be able to handle the Washington Wizards in the first round. The series was split right down the middle 2-2, but John Wall didn't make an appearance in any of those games, which makes those results useless as far as indicating what may happen here. He changes a lot about the way they play, so we're gonna throw their season performances to the wind. Overall, my choice here is more about what I've seen from the Raptors this season, because although they cooled off a bit at the end, what I'm hoping is that their second unit makes it so DeRozan and Lowry don't completely fall off of a cliff in the playoffs. However, because I know the Raptors have a tendency to cool off in the playoffs in general, I don't feel bad about saying this series might go 6 games. The Wizards have been underwhelming this year, but they still got Bradley Beal and John Wall, which means they have a chance to make things interesting against the Toronto Raptors. Our next series is going to put what's left of the Boston Celtics up against the Milwaukee Bucks. For much of the season, the Celtics were showing potential and Kyrie was leading the squad beautifully. As the finish line appeared, Kyrie's knee fell off or something, and Marcus Smart, who's one of the dogs on that team, went out, and Tice went out as well. Maybe he's not such a big name, but with the situation the Celtics had where their would have been second best scorer was already gone, every player that was in rotation just became that much more important. Sure, Brad Stevens has proven he can make this team fight no matter what or who they have, but let's just be honest about things here. A team can only endure so much. Terry Rozier has done great in his shot to fill in for the guards, and I'm even more excited to see the development of Brown and Tatum, but I don't think Boston is getting out of the first round this year. The Bucks haven't been all that good, so if the Celtics at least had Kyrie, I would have definitely given them the edge, but with no all-star player of our own to counter what Giannis is going to be doing, they should definitely be able to get the jump on Boston. With that being said, Boston has proved on more than one occasion that they're there to fight no matter who's on the floor, so I see this one going to 7 games, but in the end, I was really hoping we got any team back there besides the Bucks. The playoffs are built for star power, and Giannis is about to be by far the best player on the floor at all times. I would have preferred to have played Miami or the Pacers, just some team where the gap wasn't that much, but that's just how things work out sometimes, so this is a perfect time for Giannis to take over and to get the Bucks to the second round. Next up, we've got the Cavaliers and Pacers. Yeah, Cavaliers in 5, if that. Look, I give Indiana, and specifically Oladipo, my full apologies. When the trade first went down, I questioned the Pacers' entire lives, and I just didn't see what the plan was there. I'm sure the plan was to tank, yet Oladipo really blossomed, and they're now in 5th seed in the East, which nobody saw coming. Hell, they even won the season series against the Cavs 3-1. There's only one problem with that. None of those games happened after Cleveland became an entirely different team. That means they went 3-1 against the retirement home Cavaliers that looked like they might forfeit the season at a certain point. This new Cleveland team, is it all that great? No, not really, but it's definitely quicker on its feet and more motivated than the one that the Pacers were beating. Oh, and yeah, then there's this guy called LeBron who, despite this being the weakest team he's had since 2010, will absolutely turn on his playoff mode and dominate Indiana. As a matter of fact, you remember when Kevin Love went out and Kyrie was in and out on one leg during the 2015 playoffs, right? Yeah, LeBron was still able to get the Cavs past Chicago, so I have no doubt he can pull this Cleveland team past the Pacers. And for our last series in the East, my favorite young team not named the Celtics, the 76ers with rookie Ben Simmons and troll god Embiid will be up against the Miami Heat. I'm super excited for this series because this whole process we've been hearing about is finally in full effect. One year they're a lottery team and the next they're a 50-win team with one of the best point guards, centers, and surprisingly a good young talent in Fultz. I say surprisingly only because there was a point in this season where he forgot how to shoot, I guess. Yet here he is playing and the kid is damn good. It's really like nothing ever happened to him. So they're matched up with Miami, who's a good defensive team, and the main thing they're about to put Ben Simmons through is checking how he adjusts his game to playoff basketball. Many say his lack of a three-point shot is gonna hurt him here, and I just say sit back and watch. This kid has played to all his strengths all year and that's not gonna change now. Miami is a decent team, but I don't think anyone would argue about the Sixers being better. They've added their fair share of good shooters to surround Embiid and Simmons, and by the way, I'm assuming Embiid will show up at some point in this series. Hassan Whiteside might make life difficult for him, but again, the playoffs are made for stars, and the Sixers have two of those today with an adequate supporting cast. Sixers take the series, but don't be surprised if it goes to 6. Yeah, side note, definitely don't be surprised if this series goes a little bit longer because I actually don't know when Embiid is going to come back. Right now his status says that he's unlikely for game 1, but who knows, but I'm really thinking that sometime during this series and sooner than later he is going to play. This brings us to our second round where Toronto gets to face their worst nightmare. It's not the Cavaliers, by the way, it's LeBron. Look, I respect Toronto's progression over the years, but I watched them in games against other teams and I watched them in games against LeBron. The problem here is clear. This team has the same problem LeBron had before he was dominating the East. For the most part, every year that LeBron had the Cavs winning so many games and leading the conference, they just couldn't get over the hump that was Boston. No matter how dominant he looked, no matter what happened in the regular season, if you were watching closely, you just knew he still had a demon in Boston to conquer before getting to the next level. Unfortunately, the way the bracket is set up, Toronto is going to be dealing with their demon in the second round for the second year straight, and I don't think this is a year that they're going to get over that hump. It's been this way for a while, but LeBron just does whatever he wants to against Toronto, and nobody on the Raptors makes life tough for him. They don't bump him, they don't push him, they don't make his catches difficult. Look, I get that he's the best player in the world, but you could at least try to make life tough for him. And when I watch Toronto and Cleveland games, I don't see anybody doing that. Maybe the word I'm looking for is enforcer. If they're not going to have someone that can make his life tough on offense or defense or both, it doesn't matter who's on the court with him, he's going to dominate you. Why do you think it's always been so much harder for LeBron in the finals? He dominates, yes, but part of the reason he doesn't win sometimes is because the other team has someone giving something back to him. Kawhi Leonard, Andre Iguodala, hell, Bruce Bowen in 2007. You can't just let him comfortably get to all of his spots and control the game. Anyways, that's exactly what I suspect is going to happen this year, but Toronto has gained enough respect for me to get 2 games on this bracket. While LeBron does whatever he wants, his team is clearly weaker than it has been in the last few years that Toronto has ran into him, and they've improved overall, so if they got 2 games in 2016, they could definitely get at least 2 games this year. And on the other side, we'll be seeing, in my opinion, 2 of the East's best upcoming teams in the Bucks and Sixers. This is pretty awesome because Giannis and Simmons will be huge pioneers in putting the East back on the map should conferences stick around, and they'll even be competing for MVP someday. For now, their 2 young teams will be battling for who gets the chance to try and dethrone LeBron in the next round. Their season series was split 2-2, although Embiid missed 2 of the 4 games and Giannis missed 1 that the Bucks lost. The difference in this series is going to be that while the Sixers have actually sectioned off to become a good team, the Bucks are still very average on both sides of the ball. I feel like the Bucks can handle the injured Celtics because Giannis is going to be able to have his way while Boston is going to be relying on supreme ball movement to overcome them. However, when they run into the Sixers series, Embiid and Simmons are coming for their necks, while they'll also be playing good defense as well. I'm excited to see the future face-off in the series, but keep in mind that if the Celtics were healthy, the Bucks wouldn't be here anyways. Sixers in 5. Isn't this what everybody wants to see at this point? Doesn't it just look perfect? Ben Simmons has clearly been influenced by LeBron's game, and it looks a lot like he may be in the running for the best player in the league somewhere down the road. On top of that, the Sixers have made an extremely fast turnaround into one of the better teams in the Eastern Conference, while the Cavaliers are at their most vulnerable point. I feel very confident in saying that this is the worst team LeBron has had since he left to Miami. Every year since then, he's had at least one star who he could just give the ball to while letting them dominate. Kyrie could take over any game. Dwayne Wade had performances like in 2013 when he kept them from going down 3-1, I believe. It's always been that way since LeBron left Cleveland for the first time. This year, who would be that guy? The only option would be Kevin Love, and although he gets extremely hot from 3, you can't just give him the ball and have him share the playmaking duties like you do with Wade or Kyrie. But the thing is, even if LeBron had no playmaker in the last few years like in 2015 when people were hurt, it didn't matter because no East team was good enough to exploit that. So think back to 2015 where Kevin Love got his shoulder pulled out and Kyrie Irving was hobbling around. The Hawks still couldn't take LeBron surrounded by just role players. They didn't have the star power for that. I thought the Chicago Bulls should have beaten them that year, but Gasol getting hurt pretty much killed those chances. But for the first time in many years, guys, I think we could have a new Eastern Conference champion. I've watched so much Cleveland basketball over the past few years because I've always wanted to know what a team would need to do to beat them. I knew that their offense would be enough to get them past anyone in the East last year, but their defense was faulty, and that's why they had no shot at a title. This year, look, don't let the numbers fool you. They're still a top offensive team, yes, but playoff basketball is simply different. When Cleveland actually runs into a good team, you're going to realize the value and luxury that it was for LeBron to have a true sidekick that could take over at any moment. Even if he was always leading the way, that extra bump from a Kyrie or Dwayne Wade is what made them truly dominant. That element does not exist anymore, and this also happens to be the year that they could be running into Philadelphia, and that's a team that's become really good rather quickly. So you know what, it may take them 7 games, but who on Cleveland is going to guard Embiid? Him and Simmons are a serious 1-2 punch, and with the supporting cast that goes with that, combined with Cleveland's lack of defense, I'm finally ready to go out on a limb and call a new champion in the East. I know a lot of you probably can't fathom LeBron James losing in the Eastern Conference because a lot of you don't even know an NBA where he's not in the finals, but before I leave this section, just consider this. Before LeBron James started going to the finals every year, he was on average teams where everything started and ended with him, and that was the reason he only made it there once before that. Getting past actual teams posed a challenge because LeBron could do everything in his power to win a game, but in the end, the better functioning team would always win. Now, I can't find the interview, but LeBron himself said that what the Boston Celtics taught him was that to win you had to have great teammates, and that's when you started seeing the big threes in Miami and the big 3 in Cleveland. This year, LeBron James does not have great teammates, and there's a very worthy opponent in his conference, which is also a new thing. The last time LeBron didn't have great teammates and there was a worthy opponent, he didn't go to the NBA Finals. Given that, yes, the 2010 Cavaliers are still not as good as the ones that he's playing on right now, but the comparison I'm making is that if you think back to 2010, everything started and ended with LeBron, absolutely everything. There was no sidekick. This Cavaliers team, it's basically the same thing. Yes, he has a good player in Kevin Love, but that's not the same sidekick as a Kyrie or a Dwayne Wade. It's not the same thing. Yes, I'll admit that the Sixers are definitely young and they're going to have to fight hard to dethrone LeBron James in the East, but this is the most vulnerable a LeBron James team has looked in a very long time, and if there was ever a year he wasn't going to make the finals, in my opinion, this would be it. Warriors in 4. Yeah, I know, a bit of a buzzkill after that dramatic call about the Sixers going to the finals, but assuming Golden State is healthy, the Sixers do not stand a chance. Look, I said the Sixers were good. I didn't say they were that damn good. They're good as in they definitely have a chance to beat the Cavs while LeBron is surrounded by mostly role players. They're not good as in they're about to beat a team with 4 All-Stars on it. I don't even need to waste time explaining to you why this wouldn't be a great or competitive series, but at least it'd be something different, right? I mean, the other alternative to this is like the Warriors and Cavs or Warriors and Raptors, and I promise you those are not more entertaining than this. As a matter of fact, I hate to burst your bubble, but the only way you're going to be entertained by an NBA Finals in June would be if the Rockets or even the Thunder wound up dethroning Golden State. If the Warriors lose, then it's wide open. I could totally get up for a James vs. James Finals or even the Rockets and Sixers. That'd be super competitive and entertaining. Hopefully you can tell I didn't make these predictions with my emotions, because if I did, I would have picked the Rockets and Raptors or the Rockets and Sixers. You know what, I could even go for the Thunder and Cavaliers, that would be fine, like just something else that's not Warriors and Cavs. Emotionally, that's what I would have went with, and preferably a finals without either of them. But per usual, I don't make emotional choices on this channel. I didn't pick the Sixers over the Cavaliers because I want them there so badly. I picked them because I actually think they have a shot to knock Cleveland off. Philly doesn't strike me like a Hawks type team that had no stars but just played good fundamental basketball. They actually have a squad out there, and the addition of Markelle Fultz only made them better, so those are the guns I'm sticking with. I think they're going to beat the Cavaliers, but I think they're going to go play the Warriors in the finals, where they're going to be destroyed. But just from where I'm sitting, this is the bracket I think we're going to be seeing. And that's what I got for you guys. If you didn't see the Western Conference playoff predictions, make sure to go see that. I'm going to leave the link in the description, and you'll be able to click on it at the end of this video. Make sure to leave your predictions in the comment section, who you think's going to be in the finals, who you think's going to win it, what you think I was right about, and what you might have thought I was wrong about. Hit the like button, comment, and sub if you enjoyed, and hit the bell next to my name if you want notifications on future videos. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys on the next one.